Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney and I'm back. I had a little bit of an equipment issue, so I didn't post any videos during the Tampa Bay series, but I am back right after the Tampa series has ended. So let's go over the questions I had going into game number 1 against the Lightning, and we'll talk about how this series went down. Question number 1. Will they allow less than 5 goals? So the only other time the Blackhawks had seen Tampa Bay so far this year were the first 2 games of the season, and of course, that was during the 4-game stretch when they were allowing 5 goals a game. So I was interested to see what would be different this time around because the team as a whole has been playing a lot better. The goaltending has been a lot better. The defense has had some time to gel. So would they go into these games against Tampa and again give up 5, or would it get better? And it was mostly better. They played 3 games against the Lightning. The first 2 were back-to-back. Both of them went to overtime. The second one went to the shootout. And then they had a game on Sunday against the Lightning, and we just kind of don't talk about that game. The score of game number 1 was 3-2. Tampa Bay won in overtime. They won with less than a tenth of a second to go. Hedman took a shot from the point and it just managed to get through Kevin Lonkinen's pads. It looked like Alex Killorn out in front might have kicked Kevin's stick away, which allowed the puck to get through, but it is what it is. It was a good goal. Tampa Bay won, and it sucked. But including that overtime goal, the Blackhawks only allowed 3 goals to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they forced them to overtime. So they took a point away from the reigning champs in game number 1. Of course, Tampa Bay did get the 2 points for the win, but it is important that the Blackhawks picked up points in this series. Game number 2, the second half of the back-to-back, the score was 4-3. Again, an overtime game. This one, like I said, went to the shootout, and the Blackhawks won. Philip Kurashev was the lone goal scorer in the shootout between both teams. Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane shot before him, but Curtis McElhinney came up with the saves. The Tampa shooters were Victor Hedman, Braden Point, and Steven Stamkos. And Malcolm freaking Subban came up with some huge saves in the shootout, and not only the shootout, he came up with some huge saves in overtime, and throughout the whole game, he was the first, second, and third star of that game. What a night for the Blackhawks goaltender. Tampa had 42 shots on goal compared to Chicago's 27, and he only allowed 3 of those. And you couldn't really say any of them were his fault. It was just a fantastic game for Malcolm Subban. And then, I guess, reluctantly, I do have to mention that game on Sunday. The Blackhawks lost 6-3. What is that? The Blackhawks weren't playing Tampa, they were playing the officials? Oh, that makes so much more sense. Yeah, so the Blackhawks had to play 2 separate teams on Sunday. They were on paper up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but the officials wanted to make their presence known in this game, and they turned the whole tide of it around. And I really hate blaming the officiating of a game for the outcome. It just seems like a cop-out. Teams have to face penalty kills all the time. You just have to stop the puck. And there were a lot of goals in that Sunday game that Kevin Lonkinen is going to want to have back. But the Blackhawks took a 3-0 lead. It was looking good. The Hawks were flying. Obviously, they were scoring goals. And then after a couple of very weak calls, Tampa Bay tied it up, and it just spun out of control from there. They scored 6 unanswered. I turned off the game partway through the second period. The Ice Hogs game was coming on a little bit later, so I didn't need that kind of stress in my life. Shut it off, didn't even pay attention to what happened, and I just patiently waited for the Ice Hawks puck to drop. Here's the thing about Sunday. You have the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa is a lot better team on paper, and they're just better than the Chicago Blackhawks. The team that you root for, me, obviously Chicago, if they lose to the best or one of the best teams in the entire league, I mean, that's to be expected, right? And yes, it is. It's not losing to a great team that hurts. It is when the first 2 games of this series have been so incredibly close. They've been totally entertaining. They were fun games to watch, if not a little stressful on the heart there, but they were good games overall. On Sunday, the Hawks got that 3-0 lead, and then it was just weak call after weak call. Like I said, playing with fire, putting Tampa Bay on the power play that many times. Let's say they hadn't been weak calls, just blatant, obvious penalties that get called every single game. Fine. That's on the Hawks to have some better discipline. Or let's say Tampa Bay caught up while not having the man advantage. They're a great team. Okay, fine. That sucks, but it is what it is. But when the game is just completely turned on its head due to bad officiating, that is what nags at your brain. And clearly, that nagged at the brains of our players, because once Tampa tied it up, the game was just over. Sure, Chicago could have come back, scored the go-ahead goal again, and maybe gotten back on that train, but it was too late. The ship had sailed, everything was flipped on its head, and Tampa Bay won 6-3. The officials won 6-3. I hate saying it. I hate even saying it as much as I did in that segment. It just feels gross. A lot of times people blame the officiating and you're sitting back, you're like, no, your team just took those penalties. And it's happened plenty of times to the Blackhawks and the Ice Hogs both, where they just can't stay out of the box and it's their own dang fault. You can't blame the officiating for that. But on Sunday, it was just ridiculous. And it's even more frustrating because if anybody from the team or the coaching staff were to say anything after the game, they would just be fined for it, because the refs are just this untouchable entity that you can't criticize. That's just so dumb, in my opinion. Anyway, getting back to the question, in 2 of the 3 games, they did allow less than 5 goals, and it was great to see. Question number 2, will DeBrincat get a goal? So the thought behind this one was Patrick Kane finally got his 400th goal against Detroit. You could tell as he creeped up to that, DeBrincat was trying to force the puck to him, trying to get him that number, and you can't blame him for that. So once Kane did hit that milestone, you're thinking, oh, maybe DeBrincat will shoot the puck more. He can pick up his own goals. And he did. He scored 1 goal in the first game. He scored 2 goals in the second game. It's too bad he couldn't have scored in the shootout. Our shooters have had a very difficult time with that this year, but thankfully Philip Kurashev did, and no harm was done. But I do really want to see our guys start scoring more in the shootout. Typically, the Hawks have been fairly decent at it because you had Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, the two-headed monster. Now, Toews is out, and Kane can't score in the shootout if his life depended on it. I don't know if he needs his buddy Jonathan to go first in order for him to score second. Whatever the case, he can't score, so we rely on the rookies, and Philip Kurashev got the goal. Question number 3. Can they take advantage of being at home and coming off of a big win to start off the series with a win? No, they didn't start the series with the win, but they did take it to overtime, so I will allow that. And they came out the next night and won the game that they probably shouldn't have won. They were the better team in game number 1. Tampa ended up tying it, taking it to overtime, and like I said, they won with less than 1/10 of a second left. Game number 2, Tampa Bay was the better team, and in typical Troll Hawks fashion, they came back and won it in the shootout. So it is what it is, but you could tell when they went into that first game, they were flying. They must have gained some momentum from that huge game against Detroit, winning 7-2, if you forgot so soon. It seems like that game was about a year ago now after dealing with this whole Tampa series. And whether they took advantage of being at home or not, I guess we won't know since there's no people in the stands. But in 2 out of the 3 games against Tampa Bay, the Hawks showed that they could skate with them. And again, Sunday's game just does not count. So now the Blackhawks take all of that, all the things that they experienced in that 3-2 game series against Tampa Bay, and they go into Dallas to play the Dallas Stars. This time it is only a 2-game series, but it kicks off Tuesday night. Here are my 3 questions for game number 1 against Dallas. Question 1, will the penalty kill get back on track? So special teams have been pretty up and down for the Blackhawks this year. The power play has remained pretty close to the top, and last I heard they were first in the league. And I just looked there, tied for first with the Toronto Maple Leafs at 31.2%. Their penalty kill, on the other hand, is 27th at 72.5%. That's not so good. And we've seen it be better. It was better at the start of the year, and just as of lately, it's fallen off a bit. In the 2 games against Detroit, they went 0 for 1 on the penalty kill in both games. Thursday night's game against Tampa, they were 1 for 1. They only took 1 penalty, and they killed it off. Friday, they were 5 for 6. That's pretty good. Take 6 penalties, but only allow 1 goal. Sunday, they were 1 for 5. Tampa Bay scored 4 power play goals on Sunday. See what I mean by it being really related to the officiating? So, can they go into Dallas and get that back on track? I sure hope so. Penalties are going to be called, and you gotta kill them off. Question 2, will Patrick Kane have a bounce back game? I've said it a lot recently, Patrick Kane has been absolutely on fire. He's been the best player on the team, and you need him to be the best player on the team. Sunday's game, he had 1 shot on goal. That's not gonna cut it. He did get an assist off a beautiful passing play between himself himself, Dominic Kubalik, and Matthias Janmark, who ended up with the goal. But other than that, it was a pretty rough game for number 88. Since he's been so great lately, I can't see him just taking a bunch of games off, especially when you really need to bounce back from that horrible nonsense, whatever it was, on Sunday. And he seems to really like playing the Dallas Stars. So will he have a bounce back game on Tuesday? Question 3, which goaltender do we see? So Kevin Lankinen got Thursday's game to overtime. Malcolm Subban had that incredible game on Friday. Lankinen played Sunday. We know how that went. So who do they put in net on Tuesday? We've seen Kevin Lankinen get the majority of the starts. Usually if he's got a stinker of a game, he comes back and plays amazing in the next one. But Subban's last game was terrific. So do they put Lankinen back in net, seeing as Sunday was what it was? Or do they give him a break and put Malcolm Subban in net? They could also pull a wild card out of their hat and put Colin Delia in net. They recalled him back to the team from the Rockford IceHogs today. And Colin won back-to-back games this weekend for Rockford. Just something to think about. Who do you think we see in net? Those are my 3 questions for Tuesday night's game against the Dallas Stars. Do you have any questions for this team, observations of the season as a whole, and tell me who you think's gonna start in net? Leave all of those thoughts and anything else down in the comments below. If you want to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head over to FromCenterIce.com. Keep up with the latest podcast episodes, game recaps for the IceHogs, game previews for the Blackhawks, and some other fun stuff in between. There's been a lot of roster moves lately with all these guys getting sent up and down, and I've been writing about that too. If you're a social media type of person, you can go follow us on all of those accounts. All of those are linked down in the description. All of that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Let's hope for a bounce back game from the whole team, and I will see you after the next one. Bye guys. Thank you all for watching. Please hit that subscribe button to catch more From Center Ice content. If you could, hit the like button on this video, maybe share it with a friend or two. And while you're here, check out the podcast playlist and catch up on some old episodes. We will catch y'all next time. Bye!